Hello guys, welcome to today's video on Camcorder Homestead. So today I'm going to do something a little bit different for you guys, bringing you guys into our ever-developing home, and I am going to make some pasties. I figured I'm going to show you guys the process because they're super cheap, pretty easy to make. They're a little time consuming, not gonna lie, just because it's a lot of chopping of things, but once you make them, it is well worth it. I'm going to be using our Cookstove. So I got that fired up and everything's starting to warm up. We are suspecting baby to be here in like a month and a half-ish. So I'm trying to get a little organized, hopefully get a little bit of food in the freezer just to help make things a little easier for baby arrival. If we don't eat them all before the baby actually arrives.
To get started, we will start out by making the dough, and we will start with this first because once it is done and all mixed together, it's going to need to chill for 1 hour. So getting this made first gives you time to prep and cut up your vegetables as you're waiting. So starting out, we're going to bring 1 cup of water to boiling. As you're waiting for your water to come to a boil, you can go ahead and measure out 1 cup of shortening. I myself personally prefer to use lard, so I'm going to be using lard in this recipe. You can go ahead and use lard, shortening, butter, whatever it is that you prefer. We are so excited. As you can see in this video, I am using lard from the store, but currently on the homestead we are raising a lard pig, which means this fall we are going to have a large amount, an abundance of lard, which we can use in the kitchen for our baking and our cooking. So we are so excited for that. Okay, so once your water comes to a boil, go ahead and add it in with your lard and let that sit until the water gets to room temperature. And while we're waiting for that, we can move on to our vegetables and our meats. So this is what's going to go inside of the crust. So I'm going to start out with 2 pounds of beef and just add it in with your bowl. And next we will start prepping our vegetables. So for our vegetables, what we will need is potatoes, onion, rutabaga, and carrots. So we're going to go with around 5 potatoes to 1 onion to 1 rutabaga. I personally thought 1 rutabaga was too much, so I did half a rutabaga, but I also had a very large rutabaga. So use as you please, however much you would like, and then 2 to 3 carrots. Okay, so now that I have all my vegetables peeled and ready to be diced, I can go ahead and cut them up. I myself personally prefer to cut up my vegetables a little bit smaller for my pasties, so I will cut them in approximately like 1/2-inch cubes. Whatever size you do, just try to stay consistent with your potatoes and your rutabaga. Otherwise, if one is fairly larger than the other, you might come out with a crunchy potato or crunchy rutabaga. Okay, so now that I have my vegetables in with my meat all in the same bowl, I'm going to go ahead and add 2 tablespoons of salt and some pepper to taste. And the biggest challenge here now is mixing everything in consistently together, especially if you did what I did by throwing the whole block of beef in there. I really had to work my beef to mix in evenly with the vegetables. you can see how basic it is to make these pasties. I have my 5 potatoes, 2 pounds of burger, 1 onion, 2 teaspoons of salt, pepper, half a rutabaga, and 2 to 3 carrots, all mixed together here in my bowl. And by now, my lard and my water should be cooled and melted together, and I can move on to finishing my dough. For this, you will need 3 cups of flour, so go ahead and add that in with your lard and your water, and then we will add in 1 teaspoon of salt, and all we need to do is thoroughly mix everything together with our hands. And once it is all good to go, we can let this refrigerate for 1 hour. And this refrigerating actually is pretty key in the final step of making the pasties, because if I were to just try and roll out this dough right away, it would be very sticky, stick to the table, and very challenging to work with. Next, we want to make sure we get our oven up to temperature, so we are looking to get it up to 400 degrees, and these are going to need to bake for around 50 to 60 minutes. So I'm stocking the stove, making sure I am rising the temperature in my oven, and now that my dough is ready to go and it has chilled for an hour, I am going to flour this countertop. And this will prevent the dough from sticking to both the counter and then as well as the roller. So we're taking around 1/3 cup of dough and rolling it out into a nice circle. The wider you go, the more filling you will be able to put in the pasty. So for this, I'm putting around 1.5 cups of filling into each pasty. I just find that for me and my family, that seems to be a good sized pasty to be a filling meal for us when we go ahead and eat it. When adding your pasties to your pan for baking, don't worry about greasing the pan, because this dough has so much fat in it that will naturally release some of the oils. So you do not have to worry about buttering the pan that you are placing your pasties on.